Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. First of all, the reason I've been doing so much content recently has to do with some, adjustments that I made to my medication. I'm not normally going to be like this, making content at this volume. It's just, it's a temporary thing, so don't get concerned or anything when it slows down to a normal pace. Um, so yeah, I've been watching like a lot of Chad Pill videos, and it made me. I think I've been toying with the idea for a while, but I was watching one today about his experience. I'm not going to rehash it. You can go watch it if you want. About his experience getting just like humiliated, super humiliated by this girl who he was sitting next to in one class, that he was who was attractive, but he wasn't even trying to hit on her, according to him. Like, and she just hated his guts and humiliated him to the point where he couldn't even show up at the class anymore. Um, I've talked in like the previous video, or like not. I mean, no, I've talked in previous videos about how I don't buy that whole shit of girls like we hear this complaint a lot from in the black pill space. You're just like girls just like look at me with this look of disgust. And then Todd was really big on this idea, like he really believed this, that women hated ugly. And when he said, he meant women hated ugly men. Todd considered himself ugly. I actually didn't think he was bad looking, but that's that was something he was like, he would not concede that point. Like he would always say women hate ugly men. And I've always been super dismissive of it. But it's one thing to be dismissive of it when Todd or Travis Blackpill or Face MLS or LMS says it. And it's another thing to be dismissive of it when it's somebody like Chad Light saying it. I'm sorry if I said Chad Pill earlier. Um, the Because Chad Light is neurotypical, and he's also like extremely normie. You like watch his videos, like he's extremely like he's a super normie. So he's neurotypical and a normie, and he's like a reliable witness. Like you can he's a reliable narrator. You know that if he said something, it's. I mean, I'm sure everybody, like anybody who's telling a story, first of all, people misremember stuff, and then people like will exaggerate for effect, or embellish, or even just make shit up. I get that, but that's or sometimes they'll just switch things around just to make the story more like easier to understand or easier to follow. um that, like, yes, everybody does that. I'm sure he does that too, but probably less than most people, given how normy he is. But that's different than, he's somebody who, like, you can tell like major things of the story are not things he's making up. You can just tell. Like, I mean, I guess you can't prove it with absolute certainty, but you basically know. And so if he's saying this happened, that this girl didn't just give him a face, which could like maybe like give him like a stink face. That could just be interpreted like, well, maybe it's in your head, maybe you were looking at her weird or whatever. But like, again, if you're interested, you can go watch the video. This girl who like went out of his way to humiliate him for no reason. The only reason she could have like disliked him so much was because he was a creep. And the only reason that she would have to think he was a creep was because he was unattractive. Now, as I said before, I've always been dismissive of this, because not only had I never seen it happen to other people, although I might just not have noticed, but it's definitely never happened to me. It's definitely never happened to me. So I was thinking if there was anything to this, it would have happened to me at least once, or something like that happened to me at least once. And it just, I guess maybe it kind of occurred to me today is like, well, I'm not positive about Travis Blackpill, although I think he probably is a bigger guy. But if you see, like, what do Todd, Travis Blackpill, Face LMS, and what's his Chad Light have in common? Like, I mean, what they would say is, well, we're all ugly, or well, at least Chad Light is formerly ugly. It's like, okay, yeah, but there's a lot of ugly guys. Like I said, like, no girl's ever acted that way to me. So it's not that. So don't even try with that, which is what they're gonna say. The other thing is what I think a lot of people say was, well, they're not neurotypical, which is kind of what I thought for a long time, but that's not really true, because Face LMS isn't neuroatypical. He's just weird. Like, really weird. But you could say that even if you wanted to include him in neuroatypical, like Travis Blackpill and Todd, it's not, then that still wouldn't explain Chad Light. So what is it? And it's counterintuitive, but I think it's because they're all tall. They're all tall, big guys. And it's got me thinking that maybe height and size overall, but particularly height, so height size, is not so much something that creates attraction, because we've all known plenty of tall guys who, now it might be different with the Zoomer generation, but like when I was a kid, there were definitely really tall guys who the girls were not attracted to. In fact, they were repulsed by them. And maybe it's not that women are attracted to height per se. It's that, at least past a certain point, it's that height size acts as an amplifier to the feelings women just have about men. So a guy who is maybe, a little on the homely side, if that guy is 5'10" with a normal frame, a woman probably doesn't even notice he exists. At least, I mean, if she's attractive, but like, let's just say an attractive woman, whatever, doesn't even notice that he exists. But if you take that same guy, he's like homely, ugly, whatever, but instead of 5'10", he's with a medium frame, he's 6'3" with a big frame. Now all of a sudden, she's repulsed by him. Like, she's actively repulsed by him. He said his dimensions give off creep factors. Like, because, like, and if you want me to, like, Evo Psych explain it, it could be that her as an attractive woman, she knows this guy is just, she intuitively understands, or biologically understands, this guy is attracted to her. And then she sees it, and then, like, her biology is just telling her this guy has the ability to force his garbage genes on you in a way that a 5'10" guy does not. Because this guy can push out all the other men. He's big enough to push out all the other men and you. And that could be like the Evo Psych explanation. And then the reverse is, let's say he's a good-looking guy who's 6'3" or whatever. Then you have the same thing going on in reverse. It's like saying that, like, oh, not only is he attractive or he's cute or whatever, he's cute if he was 5'10" or 5'9", but now you see him at 6'3", it's like, wow, like, this guy, like, this guy is cute, and he's and his height is now something good. He's like, that's like good genes that I want to pass on to my offspring, and he can be protective of me too. And so now all of a sudden it's a good thing, because there's no fear of the bad genes. And I don't want to get too off on the Evo Psych thing, because that's like, maybe I'm totally off base on that, because that's not really important. But what I'm trying to get is on the idea of it just acting as an amplifier effect, as opposed to height being something by itself that women are really that attracted to. Rather, it's like, you look like what you look like. Face does matter, or whatever. They like your face or don't like your face. They like your personality or don't like your personality, whatever. But you add height to that, okay personality or okay face, and all of a sudden you got a guy who's really attractive to a lot of women. Similarly, maybe the face is kind of like, and the personality's not great, or even kind of weird, and you add height to it, and now it's like gone from just being not for me to being like actively repulsive because it's threatening to the point that it's actively repulsive, because that's the only thing that would explain like the sort of level of animosity and cruelty that you have guys like Chad Light talk about, you've heard the guys like Todd talk about in the past, and especially with guys like Todd and Face LMS, you can really understand like why women would be afraid of them. So that's like, you know, that reaction, that sort of like instinctive, visceral reaction that they interpret as hatred. That's what it is. Like, whereas I always just dismissed it as either A, in their heads, or B, as a reaction to behaviors that they were maybe unconsciously engaging in. And there's probably at least something to both of those things. Maybe it's like beyond that, though. It's like they've got, you know, it's the, you know, maybe they are at least perceived by some women as unattractive. Their personalities, I know, are definitely perceived as unattractive. But then on top of that, they're seen as physically threatening, or they're seen as physically capable, and that becomes threatening when you add those unattractive features in, or what they see as unattractive features. And again, if they weren't seen as, if the features are seen as even just a little bit attractive, all of a sudden that height becomes a huge bonus, like a huge, ridiculous bonus, like whereas that it, beyond what it maybe would rationally make sense. So, and that was so why have like women never reacted in that visceral, disgusted way towards me when they have reacted that way towards a guy like Chad Pill? And the reason is because I don't give, like, me being such a small guy, there's no physical sense of danger. You know, there's no like not even physical sense of danger. I think it's more, like I said, I think it's more instinctual than that, more instinctual and subconscious. I really think that there's like some kind of biological reaction, and that a tall guy that a tall guy generates or stimulates, either for good or ill, as opposed to a smaller guy. So since no woman really feels physically, on an instinctive level at least, no feels uh, like physically threatened by me, or that like I'm of any type of physical danger to her, then there's no reason, like if she thinks that I'm ugly, there's no reason for her to, you know, react in like a sort of visceral defensive fashion. Because like, yeah, maybe she thinks I'm ugly, but I'm also not a threat. However, if she thinks I'm ugly and suddenly I'm 6'3" or 6'4", then there's that threatening aspect, and it's going to completely change the way she reacts to me, and like, or anybody else. So that's just a new theory. It is just a theory. It's not proven, but and I'm not like 100% convinced. I do think that there's something just hyped by itself, at least in most cases. But I think there's a lot to it. I'm actually very certain there's a lot to it. That's all for now. See you in the next.